The stars looked different from the bridge of the UES Indomitable. Captain Hyun-woo stood with his hands behind his back, watching the alien ships approach. They were beautiful, nothing like human vessels. Where human ships were angular and aggressive, these looked like they grew naturally, all curves and soft lights. "They're hailing us again, sir," said Lieutenant Ji-won from her station. She was the best xenobiologist in the fleet, handpicked for this mission. First contact with an actual alien civilization. Humanity had been searching for decades. "Put them through," Hyun-woo said. The view screen filled with the face of Ambassador Velthar. He looked almost mammalian, with soft fur and large eyes that seemed kind. His translator device made his words come out in perfect Korean. "Captain Hyun-woo, we are honored to meet you. The Galactic Concordance welcomes humanity." The next 3 days were incredible. The aliens, who called themselves the Kirathi, were genuinely excited about humans. They toured human ships, shared meals, exchanged art and music. The Concordance had 47 member species, all peaceful, all working together. During a cultural briefing, Velthar explained their history. "We had wars once, thousands of years ago. Terrible things. But we evolved past that. Now, when there are conflicts, we resolve them through ritual combat." "Like duels?" Ji-won asked, taking notes. "Yes, but safe. When a warrior takes damage beyond 15% efficiency, their neural implant automatically sedates them. No one dies. No one suffers unnecessarily. We thought this was universal, how all intelligent species would develop." Hyun-woo and Ji-won exchanged glances. That was not how humans worked at all. The incident happened on the 4th day. Corporal Dae-jung was touring a Kirathi warship with a group of other junior officers. He was excited, asking questions about everything. The Kirathi warriors were amused by his energy. One warrior, Korvesh, made a gesture that in his culture meant a friendly challenge, like arm wrestling or a sparring match. His translator chip must have glitched because Dae-jung's device told him it was a training invitation. "Oh, you want to spar?" Dae-jung grinned. "Sure. I could use the practice." They moved to a training room. The other Kirathi gathered to watch. This was entertainment for them, a casual thing. Korvesh was curious how a human would fight. The match began with traditional bows. Then Korvesh moved fast, much faster than he looked like he could. His fist caught Dae-jung in the jaw. A solid hit that snapped the human's head back. Korvesh stepped back, waiting for the sedation to take effect. His implant showed he had delivered a blow worth 20% efficiency loss. More than enough. Dae-jung stumbled, touched his mouth, looked at the blood on his fingers. Then he looked up with a smile that made Korvesh's blood run cold. "Okay," Dae-jung said. "That actually hurt. Good hit. He should have been unconscious." Where was the sedation? Where was the automatic surrender? Korvesh hesitated, then struck again, harder this time. A blow to the ribs that definitely cracked something. Dae-jung went down on one knee, gasping. The Kirathi were murmuring now, concerned. This was wrong. The human should be sedated. Dae-jung stood back up, slower this time, holding his side, still smiling. "My turn now?" "Stop," Korvesh said, backing away. "Stop. Please. You are injured. You should be sedated. How are you standing?" "Sedated?" Dae-jung looked confused. "Why would I be sedated? It's just sparring. I've had worse in training." Dae-jung looked of process. "Why?" Dae-jung looked confused. "Why would I be sedated?" Dae-jung looked confused. The alarm went out across the Kirathi ship. Within minutes, both Captain Hyun-woo and Ambassador Velthar arrived at the training room. Dae-jung was sitting down now, finally accepting that something was wrong. A medical team was scanning him with devices that showed his injuries in 3-dimensional detail. 3 broken ribs, Severe concussion, internal bleeding, the Kirathi doctor reported, his voice shaking. He should be dead or comatose. How is he conscious? How is he talking? Hyun-woo looked at his corporal. Dae-jung. How bad is the pain? Dae-jung. Pretty bad, sir. 7 out of 10, maybe? Dae-jung winced. But I've had worse. Remember that training exercise in Alaska? Ji-won was already explaining to Velthar. Humans don't have neural implants for automatic sedation. We don't have a biological off switch for combat. Our bodies release chemicals during stress that suppress pain and keep us functional even with serious injuries. But the pain, Velthar whispered. The damage. How can he ignore it? We don't ignore it, Hyun-woo said carefully. We just continue, anyway. It's a choice, sometimes. Other times, it's automatic. Adrenaline, shock, training. Evolution made us able to keep fighting when injured, because on Earth, stopping meant dying. The Kirathi stared at them like they were looking at monsters. Let me be clear, Velthar said slowly. You can be injured, in pain, your body damaged, and you can simply decide to keep fighting? Yes, Ji-won confirmed. And there is no automatic limit? No biological shutdown? You can fight until you literally die? Yes, Hyun-woo said. Though we try not to. We have medics. We have sense. But yes, humans can fight through injuries that would incapacitate most species. We didn't realize this was unusual. The room was silent except for the medical equipment working on Dae-jung. The young corporal looked embarrassed now, realizing he had caused an international incident. Velthar spoke into his communication device in his own language, too fast for the translators to keep up. Then he looked at the humans with something between awe and fear. The council must be informed immediately. This changes everything about humanity's application to the concordance. He paused. Lovelo. 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 Captain. With respect, your species might be the most dangerous thing we have ever encountered. Hyun-woo wanted to argue. But looking at his corporal, sitting there with broken ribs and a concussion, still conscious and alert, he understood why the aliens were afraid. Humans really did not have an off switch. And the galaxy was about to learn what that meant. The Concordance Council chamber was enormous, designed to hold representatives from 47 different species. Today it was packed. Everyone wanted to understand what humans were. Dr. Sumin stood at the center platform next to Ji-won. Sumin was a trauma surgeon, one of the best. She had seen things that would give civilians nightmares. Now she had to explain human biology to aliens who thought pain was an automatic stop button. Thank you for inviting us, Sumin began. Her voice was calm and professional. I understand. There is concern about human physiology. I will explain, as clearly as possible. The holographic display lit up behind her, showing a human body in 3 dimensions. This is a standard human. When we are threatened or injured, our bodies release several chemicals: adrenaline, cortisol, endorphins. These chemicals do many things. They increase heart rate, sharpen focus, and most importantly for this discussion, they reduce pain. Reduce? Asked a delegate from the Hiver species. They looked like upright mantises. Reduce, Sumin confirmed. We still feel pain, but the chemicals make it possible to ignore it or push through it. This response evolved because our planet was dangerous. Predators everywhere. If our ancestors stopped fighting when injured, they died. Simple as that. She changed the display to show the human nervous system. We also have what we call voluntary muscle control. Even when injured, even when our body is screaming at us to stop, we can choose to continue moving. It is not easy. It hurts. But it is possible. Velthar raised his hand. Doctor, you say choose. How can one choose to endure pain? Our neural implants exist because our ancestors could not fight through serious injury. It is biologically impossible for us. G1 stepped forward. That is the key difference. For humans, continuing, despite injury, is hard, but possible. We have documented cases throughout our history of humans performing incredible physical feats while severely wounded. Show us, said Counselor Dreth, the Hiver representative. We need to understand. Ask. Sumin hesitated. Some of these images are disturbing. Sumin. 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 Show us, Dreth repeated. The first image appeared. A human soldier from Earth's 20th century, missing part of his leg, still firing his weapon. The next showed a woman who had climbed down a mountain with a broken back. Then a man who had walked into a hospital with a knife embedded in his skull, complaining of a headache. The council chamber filled with sounds of distress. Several delegates left their seats. These are not warriors in special circumstances? Velthar asked weakly. These are ordinary humans, Sumin said. I have personally treated patients who walked into emergency rooms with injuries that should have left them unconscious. A construction worker with a metal rod through his chest. A mother who drove herself to the hospital while having a heart attack. A teenager who finished a race with a broken leg because he did not want to disappoint his team. This is insane, someone whispered. This is human. G1 corrected. It is not something we are proud of. Exactly. It is just how we are built. Most of us never need to use this capability. We live peaceful lives, but the ability is there, in every human. Counselor Dreth leaned forward. What happens in war? Not accidents. Not these individual cases. What happens when humans actually go to war? The human delegation exchanged looks. Captain Hyun-woo, who had been standing to the side, stepped forward. We stopped having total wars about 2 centuries ago, Hyun-woo said carefully. We learned that our particular biology makes war extremely destructive. When humans fight without limits, terrible things happen. Show us, Dreth demanded again. Hyun-woo nodded to G1. She brought up historical footage. The council watched images of human warfare. Trenches filled with soldiers who charged into machine gun fire. Cities where humans fought block by block, building by building. Last stands where small groups held off massive armies. This is the Battle of Thermopylae, G1 narrated. 300 Spartan soldiers held off an army of thousands for 3 days. They knew they would die. They fought anyway. More footage. Desert warfare. Jungle combat. A modern soldier applying a tourniquet to his own severed leg, while still giving orders to his squad. They do not stop, Velthar said in horror. Even when clearly defeated, they do not stop. Surrender is a choice for humans. Sumin explained. Not an automatic response. We can choose to surrender. And in modern times we usually do when a situation is hopeless. But we can also choose not to. Some humans throughout history have chosen to fight until death, rather than surrender. Why? The question came from a delegate whose species Sumin did not recognize. Why would anyone choose death over surrender? Many reasons, Hyun-woo said. Pride. Duty. Protection of others. Sometimes spite. Humans are complicated. But the point is, it is always a choice. Our bodies do not make the choice for us. The council chamber was silent now except for the sound of some delegates being physically ill. The footage had stopped, but the implications hung in the air. Let me be clear, Sumin said into the silence. Most humans will never use this capability. We are not violent by nature. We prefer peace, but when pushed, when threatened, when protecting something we care about, humans can and will fight through injuries that would stop any other species. This is simply a fact of our biology. 1. One here of her lord. One here of her 4. You are weapons, Dreth said quietly. Living weapons that cannot be turned off. We are survivors, G1 corrected firmly. There is a difference. We do not seek violence, but we are very, very good at not dying. Velthar stood slowly. The Council needs time to process this information. Humanity's application to join the Concordance must be reviewed in light of these revelations. This is not a rejection, but you must understand, we have never encountered a species like yours. We need to consider what it means. Hyunwoo bowed. We understand, Ambassador. Take the time you need. We are still the same species we were yesterday. You just understand us better now. As the human delegation left the chamber, Su Min heard the whispers behind them. Words like monster, dangerous, unstoppable. She wanted to argue, to defend humanity, but she had seen the footage too. She had treated the patients. She knew what humans were capable of. Maybe the aliens were right to be afraid. Humans were very good at not having an off switch. In a galaxy where everyone else had one, that made humanity either the most valuable ally or the most terrifying enemy. The Concordance was about to figure out which one. 6 months passed. The Concordance accepted humanity as a provisional member with many restrictions. No human military bases in core systems. Limited fleet presence. Observers at all human military installations. The galaxy was still nervous about the species that did not know when to quit. Commander Min Seo of the Human Expeditionary Force did not mind the restrictions. She commanded 3 destroyers, the Soul's Fist, the Busan's Fury, and the Jeju's Revenge. Small ships by human standards, but the Concordance had never seen anything like them. Where Concordance vessels were built for ritual combat and peacekeeping, human warships were built for actual war. The alarm came on a Tuesday morning, ship time. Min Seo was drinking coffee when her communication officer burst onto the bridge. Commander, we are receiving emergency broadcasts from Tarsus 6. They are under attack. Concordance forces? Min Seo asked, already moving to her command chair. Yes, ma'am. 4,000 peacekeepers. But the attacker is not responding to ritual combat challenges. They are just killing everyone. Min Seo felt her blood run cold. Who was attacking? They call themselves the Daka. The briefing came through in fragments. The Daka were a hive mind species, insectoid, and they did not follow Concordance law. They had appeared at the edge of known space 3 years ago. Small raids, mostly. The Concordance had tried to make contact, to negotiate, but the Daka never responded. They just took what they wanted and left. This was different. This was an invasion. Tarsus 6 was an agricultural world, peaceful, protected by a standard Concordance peacekeeping force. 4,000 trained warriors with ritual combat experience. When the Daka attacked, the peacekeepers followed standard doctrine. They engaged in formation, challenged the enemy to formal combat, and when casualties reached 10%, they surrendered. The Concordance had rules about surrender. You accept it, take prisoners, negotiate terms. Everyone knew the rules. The Daka executed all 4,000 prisoners. Then, they landed on the planet and began systematically killing the 200,000 civilians. By the time the news reached the emergency council session, Tarsus 6 was silent. We need to evacuate, Velthar said. His voice was shaking. The Daka fleet is moving toward the colony belt. 12 systems, hundreds of millions of civilians. We cannot fight them. They do not follow the rules. How many Concordance military vessels can respond? Asked Councillor Dreth. 300, maybe 400 if we pull from border patrols. But Commander, they will not surrender. Our forces are not trained for this. When we take casualties, we surrender. It is our biology. We cannot fight an enemy that does not accept surrender. The council chamber erupted in panic. Evacuation plans, surrender terms, abandoning entire systems. The Concordance had not faced real war in thousands of years. They did not know what to do. Min Seo stood up in the observer section. We will handle it. The chamber went silent. Velthar looked at her. Commander Min Seo, with respect, you have 3 ships and 1,200 personnel. The Daka fleet has 47 warships, This is not something 3 destroyers can handle. You are right, Mincio said calmly. 3 destroyers cannot destroy 47 warships through conventional tactics. But we are not conventional. And you just learned something important about humans 6 months ago. We do not have an off switch. You will die, Velthar said simply. All of you. This is suicide. Maybe, Mincio agreed. But while we are dying, we will be killing them. And that gives you time to evacuate your civilians. That is the mission. Buy time. I cannot order you to do this, Velthar said. This is not what humanity agreed to when joining the Concordance. You are not ordering us. Mincio smiled. We are volunteering. This is what humans do. Someone has to stand in front of the monster. Might as well be us. The human fleet moved to intercept the Dauka at the Helios perimeter, a relatively empty region of space where debris from an old asteroid belt provided cover. Mincio chose the location carefully. If they were going to die, they would do it on their terms. The crew knew what was coming. Mincio gave them the option to transfer off, to claim objection, to stay behind. Not a single person took it. We knew what we signed up for, said Captain Taehyun of the Soul's Fist. We are human military. This is the job. Commander Yonseo of the Busan's Fury was more direct. If we run, those things kill millions. If we fight, maybe we slow them down. Easy choice. Wing Commander Jinho, who led the fighter squadrons, just laughed. 3 ships versus 47? Finally, a fair fight. The Concordance broadcast the battle across their network. Billions watched as 3 small human destroyers positioned themselves in the path of a fleet designed to exterminate entire worlds. The Dauka fleet arrived right on schedule. They did not bother with communication or warnings. They just opened fire. All ships. Mincio broadcast. Weapons free. Show them what humans are made of. The Battle of Helios perimeter began. And the galaxy learned that humans fighting without limits was the most terrifying thing they had ever seen. The Soul's Fist took the first major hit, a plasma torpedo that sheared through the engine section. By any reasonable standard, the ship was dead. Life support failing, engines gone, 40% of the crew dead or dying. Captain Taehyun's voice came over the fleet channel, calm as if he was ordering coffee. Soul's Fist to fleet. We are immobile, but weapons are still functional, rerouting all remaining power to guns. If we are going to be a target anyway, I might as well be a dangerous target. The crippled destroyer became a stationary weapons platform, firing everything it had. When the ammunition ran low, when the hull was breached in a dozen places, when only emergency power remained, Taehyun gave his final order. Crew to escape pods. Helm. Set collision course for that dreadnought. Let's take one more with us. The Soul's Fist, already dead by any measure, accelerated on emergency thrusters and rammed a Dauka dreadnought at relativistic speed. Both ships vanished in a flash of light. The Concordance watching could not believe what they had just seen. A destroyed ship, its crew already lost, had killed one more enemy out of pure spite. And the battle was only beginning. The Busan's Fury was taking heavy fire. Commander Yonseo watched her damage reports climb. Hull breaches on decks 4, 5, and 6. Life support offline in those sections. 200 crew members trapped there. Any Concordance commander would have evacuated those decks, sealed them off, written off the crew. Standard procedure when sections became uninhabitable. Yonseo opened the ship-wide channel. All personnel in affected decks. This is the commander. Emergency suits are in the lockers. Suit up and get back to your stations. We still have a job to do. Across 3 decks, 200 humans put on emergency spacesuits in rooms open to vacuum. Then they went back to their jobs. Weapons operators manually aimed guns through portals. Engineers patched conduits with tools that froze in their hands. Medical teams treated wounded in rooms where the air had been sucked out into space. The Daka had never seen anything like it. They had destroyed those sections. The crew there should be dead. But the weapons on those decks kept firing. A Daka cruiser moved in close, trying to finish the fury. Big mistake. Yonseo launched every boarding torpedo she had left. Marines in assault pods crashed into the Daka ship's hull and started cutting their way inside. Lieutenant Sung-ho led the first team through the breach. His platoon of 40 Marines hit the Daka ship like a hammer. The insectoid aliens were tough, strong, and they did not feel fear. But they had never fought humans. The battle inside the Daka ship was brutal. Plasma weapons in close quarters. Hand-to-hand combat in narrow corridors. The Daka were fast, and their claws were deadly. But humans had something the Daka could not understand. They had anger. For Tarsus 6. For the 4,000 peacekeepers executed after surrender. For the 200,000 civilians murdered. Sung-ho and his Marines fought with a fury that the hive mind Daka could not process. A Daka warrior ripped open Sung-ho's armor and tore his left arm off at the elbow. The pain was incredible. Any Concordance warrior would have been automatically sedated. Sung-ho looked at his missing arm, looked at the Daka, and grabbed a plasma torch from his belt. He cauterized his own wound. The smell of burning flesh filled his helmet. Then, he picked up his rifle with his remaining hand and shot the Daka in the face. "Medic when this is over," he said into the squad channel. "Right now we have a ship to take." His Marines heard him, saw him, and they understood. If the lieutenant could keep fighting with one arm, they could keep fighting through anything. The platoon cleared the Daka ship deck by deck. It took 11 hours. They ran out of ammunition and used Daka weapons. When those broke, they used knives, tools, whatever they could find. When nothing else worked, they used their hands. By the time they reached the ship's reactor, only 12 Marines were still combat capable. The rest were dead or too injured to continue. Sung-ho, still somehow on his feet, set the reactor to overload. "All teams, this is Sung-ho. Reactor set to blow in 5 minutes. Get to the escape pods if you can. If you cannot, it has been an honor." 6 Marines made it to pods, 6 did not. The Daka cruiser exploded, taking 3 more enemy ships with it in the blast. Meanwhile, Wing Commander Jin-ho's fighter squadrons were doing the impossible. Human fighters were small, fast, and more maneuverable than anything the Daka had. But they were lightly armed, and the pilots were just flesh and bone. Jin-ho's squadron ran out of missiles after the first 2 hours. Most commanders would have pulled back to rearm. Jin-ho had a different idea. "All fighters, this is lead. We are out of missiles, but we still have mass and velocity. Ramming attacks on my mark. Aim for their engines or weapon ports. Eject before impact. We can do more damage this way than running away." 20 fighters accelerated to maximum speed and crashed into Daka vessels at calculated angles. Most pilots ejected in time. Some did not. Those who survived used their maneuvering jets to board damaged enemy ships and sabotaged them from the inside. It was insane. It was desperate. It was working. The Daka hive mind was confused. It had fought many species. All of them followed predictable patterns. When damaged enough, they stopped. They surrendered. They died. But these humans just kept coming. Destroyed ships that should have been eliminated kept firing. Wounded soldiers who should have been incapacitated kept fighting. Pilots without weapons found new ways to kill. The Daka had never experienced anything like human spite. The Jeju's Revenge, the last functioning destroyer, was surrounded by 15 Daka ships. Commander Minseo assessed her situation. Shields down, armor breached. Ammunition at 30%. Half her crew dead or wounded. "Helm, full attack speed. Weapons, fire everything we have left. Communications, broadcast our location to the Concordance. Tell them we bought them time. Tell them to make it count." The Revenge charged into the center of the enemy formation, guns blazing. She was 1 ship against 15. She should have died in seconds. She lasted 18 minutes. Mincio fought her ship like a cornered animal. Every trick, every desperate maneuver, every last bullet. When the main guns failed, she used point defense. When shields collapsed, she rammed smaller enemy ships. When the hull was breached and half her bridge crew was dead, she kept giving orders. Engineering. I need engines. Engines are gone, Commander. Then give me something. Anything. Reactor is still functional. We could overload it. Mincio smiled. It was not a nice smile. Do it. Set the timer for 2 minutes. Helm. Plot a course into the middle of their formation. If we are going out, we are taking as many as possible with us. The Revenge accelerated on emergency power. Reactor building to critical. The Daka realized too late what was happening. They tried to destroy the ship before it reached them, but humans were very good at not dying quickly. The Revenge detonated in the center of the Daka fleet. The explosion was visible from 3 systems away. 8 Daka warships vanished in the blast. 4 more were crippled beyond repair. When the light faded, the battle was over. All 3 human ships were gone. Casualty reports came in slowly. 89% of human forces were dead or critically wounded. Only a handful had made it to escape pods, but the Daka fleet was destroyed. 47 warships reduced to debris. The invasion was over. Across concordant space, billions had watched in horror and awe. They had seen humans fight for 31 hours straight without surrender. They had seen wounded soldiers continue fighting. They had seen destroyed ships kill one more enemy before dying. They had seen what happened when humans decided that stopping was not an option. The Concordance had been saved by 1,200 humans who refused to have an off switch. And the Daka hive mind, for the first time in its existence, learned fear. Because somewhere in the galaxy, there was a species that simply would not stop. The memorial service was held on the Concordance capital world. It was the largest military funeral in galactic history. 1,200 names, read aloud in a ceremony that took 6 hours. Representatives from all 47 member species attended. Many had never been to a human funeral before. They were surprised by how quiet it was. No grand speeches, no dramatic music, just names, and the sound of humans crying silently for their dead. Ambassador Velthar found himself standing next to G1, the xenobiologist who had first explained human biology to the Council. She was crying, but also smiling somehow. How can you smile? Velthar asked gently. Your people died. They died doing what humans do best, G1 said. Standing between monsters and innocent people. They bought time for your evacuations. 200,000 civilians made it out because my people refused to quit. That is worth smiling about. Even while I cry. 8T. Velthar did not understand, but he was starting to. Humans were complicated. After the ceremony, he visited the survivors in the medical stations. There were not many. 138 humans had made it out alive, and most of them were badly injured. He found Sergeant J1 in physical therapy. The young man had lost both legs and his right arm in the battle. He was working with prosthetics, learning to walk again. It had been only 2 weeks since the battle. How? Velthar asked simply. How are you even trying? You nearly died. You lost so much. J1 shrugged his remaining shoulder. Because sitting around feeling sorry for myself does not help anyone. The prosthetics are good. Better than good, actually. Your medical technology is amazing. In a few months, I will be almost as functional as before. But the pain, the trauma, how do you cope? Therapy, mostly. Talking to the other survivors. Remembering why we fought. Understanding that pain means I am still alive, still able to do something useful. J1 paused his exercises. Ambassador? Humans are not special because we do not feel pain. We feel pain a lot. We just learned that pain is not a stop sign. It is just information. It tells you something is wrong, but it does not have to stop you. This is what disturbs us, Velthar admitted. That you can choose to continue despite your body telling you to stop. It seems impossible. It is hard, J1 agreed. But impossible? No. Humans have been doing hard things for our entire history. This is just another hard thing. The political debate in the Concordance Council was intense. A faction, led by Councillor Dreth, argued that humans should become the Concordance's military force. Let them do what they were good at. Keep everyone else safe. Another faction, led by a Kirathi philosopher named Keth, argued the opposite. Humans were too dangerous. What if they turned that relentless nature against the Concordance? Admiral Hyun Woo, promoted after the battle from captain, addressed the council during the debate. We understand your fear, he said. We understand that our biology makes us seem like monsters. But here is what you need to understand. We did not evolve this way because we are special or superior. We evolved this way because Earth was brutal. Because our planet was full of predators and diseases and disasters. Because giving up meant death. So we learned not to give up. He paused, making eye contact with delegates around the chamber. But we also evolved past our violent phase. We stopped having wars. We built a peaceful civilization. We joined you because we want to be part of something larger than ourselves. We do not want to be your attack dogs or your monsters. We want to be your partners. Partners with weapons, someone called out. Lieutenant Yunji stood from the survivor section. She was bandaged heavily, still recovering from burns across 30% of her body. But she had insisted on attending. We are not weapons, she said firmly. We are people. People who happen to be very stubborn about not dying. Every species here is peaceful because you made it through your violent phase. We made it through ours too. The difference is, we remember what it took. And when something like the Daka shows up, something that will not let anyone be peaceful, someone needs to remember how to fight without limits. So you admit you are warriors, Dreth said. We are survivors, Yunji corrected. There is a difference. Warriors seek battle. Survivors just refuse to die. And sometimes, keeping other people alive means being willing to fight. That is what we did at Helios. That is what we will always do. The debate continued for days. Finally, a compromise was reached. The Terran Guard would be established. A mixed-species military force trained in human combat doctrine. Volunteers only, from any concordance species. They would be trained to push past their natural limits, to fight when their bodies said stop, to remember that surrender was a choice, not a biological requirement. It was dangerous. The training would be hard. Many volunteers would wash out. Those who succeeded would face trauma that regular concordance civilians could not imagine, but it would work. The first training class began 3 months after the Battle of Helios. To everyone's surprise, Ambassador Velthar's daughter was in the first group of recruits. Her name was Kira, and she was determined to learn what humans knew. Admiral Hyun Woo watched the training ground from the observation deck. Corporal Dae Jung, recovered from his injuries, was one of the instructors. He was working with Kira, teaching her to get up after being knocked down. Again, Dae Jung said, not unkindly. Kira stood, breathing hard. Her species' natural sedation response was trying to kick in. Her body wanted her to stop. She visibly fought against it, staying on her feet. Good, Dae Jung said. That is the first step. Recognizing when your body says stop, and choosing to say, not yet. Again. Dr. Sumin joined Hyun-woo at the window. She was now Chief Medical Officer of the Guard, responsible for the health of all trainees. Are we doing the right thing? She asked quietly. Teaching them to ignore their natural limits? Hyun-woo watched a Kirathi recruit take a hit, start to collapse, then fight through the sedation response and stay standing. I do not know. We are teaching them that the off switch is optional, that when everything in your body says stop, you can say, not yet. Is it right? Maybe not. But the Daka are still out there. And next time they come, the Concordance will be ready. Because they will be like us? No, Hyunwoo said thoughtfully. Because they will understand what we understand. That survival is not about strength, or technology, or even courage. It is about deciding that surrender is not an option. Even when it should be. Even when every rational part of your brain says to quit. That is what makes the difference between living and dying. On the training ground below, Kira got knocked down again, and again, and again. Each time, she got back up. Slower each time. More tired. More hurt. But she kept getting up. Finally, Daejung called a halt. Enough for today. You did well. Kira collapsed, gasping. I feel terrible. Everything hurts. Good, Daejung said. That means you pushed past your limits. That means you are learning. Tomorrow we do it again. And the day after. And the day after that. Until getting back up becomes automatic. Until your first instinct is not to quit, but to continue. I understand why you won the battle now, Kira said. You simply refuse to lose. Not quite, Daejung corrected. We accept that we might lose. We accept that we might die. We just refuse to stop trying. There is a difference. The training continued. More species joined. The Terran Guard grew. And across the galaxy, the word spread. The Concordance had changed. They had learned something from humanity. They had learned that the off switch was optional. Admiral Hyunwoo returned to his office and looked at the new emblem on his wall. A human hand clasping a Kirathi claw, with a single word below it in multiple languages. Endure. That was the lesson humanity had taught the galaxy. Not violence. Not warfare. Just the simple, stubborn refusal to quit when things got hard. It was not a pretty lesson. It was not an easy lesson. But it was a necessary one. Because somewhere out there, the Daka were regrouping. And when they returned, they would find something they had never encountered before. A galaxy that knew how to fight back. A galaxy that had learned from the species without an off switch. A galaxy that knew how to endure,